Hey! Hi, I'm Rindue. Welcome to a new video. So in the last video, I've created a indie folk song with only stock Ableton plugins. I've put it all in one folder so I could create the Ableton indie folk producer pack. I've did one already for the indie pop with all the sounds that I like to use. For the indie folk, I tried to find some new sounds and create some new sounds. So we're going to look to the pack today that you can buy on my shop. The first week is 20% off. So the pack is for Ableton 12 only. I'm still working on an Ableton 11 one, but there are some sounds that don't work in Ableton 11, so I have to look into that. We have some MIDI instrument sounds, we have a guitar and bass rack, and we have some drum racks and vocal presets. So we're going to look through these today, and I hope this pack can inspire you to make some cool music. So let's start with the MIDI instruments. I've already loaded up the MIDI instruments project. It has, as you can see, 9 sounds that you can use. And let's start with the first one. I think the first one is already the best one. It's like a synth piano kind of thing with a crackle in it. I think pretty nice. I think we can use this as well. So you have a MIDI track that you can use with this sound. Then we head into a organ, which is just a plain organ with a bit of noise. A pretty simple sound. Then we head into a next organ, which you can also use as a pad. It's a combination of a sine sound and a organ. What I like to do is when you play a sus chord, like C sus, and you put down the pedal and then head into another sound. This one keeps on ringing and you can have a pad that keeps on going until you stop it. I love to use that for intros and just mess around a bit. So you have always that sus sound in the back, and then you can just fool around a bit with some chords. Then we have a lo-fi pad, which is more of a pad with also a bit of noise. I think a pretty cool texture. Then we have just a regular piano with a bit of compression and reverb. With a couple of knobs that you can turn to make it a bit more softer or harder. Or just the regular attack. A bit of tone to make it a bit more warmer and bright. I've made some macro variations. So I made a long one, a short one, and a reverse. which which is also a cool texture kind of thing. Then we have an upright piano, but it's more like a percussive kind of thing. A short piano that you can use as a percussion thing. I think also a pretty great texture. Then we have another synth piano with a tremolo in it. Let's use another key. And some knobs that you can twist for a bit more attack or a bit more release, and you can adjust the tremolo. So that's pretty cool. Then we have an FM piano. Which has a bit more attack, but also that sustain, so you have an attack sound, but then also a pad, which is a pretty cool combination. And then the last one is a ambience piano, which has a glide in it. I think that could work in some cool songs. So those are the instruments that you can use. Let's head into the guitars. I've combined the guitar and bass into one project. The Ableton amp has not that many functions as the Logic Pro amp, so I had to be a bit more creative with some effects on it, but I still think you can get some great sounds if you know a bit how to use it. So we have the first preset, which is a warm living room, which I used in last song. Which has not that much of gain. We have a bit more warmth and distance, so you can adjust the reverb. And overall, it's just a pretty simple sound that you can use in a variety of styles. We have the second one, which is the Dusty Shimmer, and that is just a vibe. With a cool shimmer effect, some slapback, some EQ, and a bit of tube. Ambience, this one. Then we have the finger-picked intimate, which is a more of a percussive kind of guitar sound. I love to use plucks in my own sound, so as a percussive thing, but also a harmonious thing. So when you have a more of an upbeat kind of indie folk sound, which has that compression and the chorus in it. The white strum is also a bit of an ambient sound, but the sustain is not that long as does the shimmer. So we have a bit of the echo. When you play it soft, you don't hear it that much, but when you have the slap, you hear the echo. So that's pretty cool. And then the last guitar sound, we have the broken tape. A bit of wobble, a bit of noise, a bit of chorus. Overall, a pretty broken sound. And then we have the bass. For my own songs, I often use just a regular warm bass sound with a bit of compression, a bit of saturation, and some EQ. So not a really complex sound. So that is the first one. Then we have a indie pick sound, which is good for a pick. I don't use it very much, but I think this could work in this genre. I think you get the idea. Then we have a tape folk bass, but it's more a distorted tape. I don't think if it fits this genre very well, but I really like the tape saturation on this. Maybe for a post-chorus or something, when you have a really big explosion of sound, you can use something like that. We have a roomy bass, which is just a warm bass with a bit more subtle details. And then I made an audio effect rack, which you can put on the rubber bridge. So when you have a guitar with a rubber bridge on it, or just a guitar with a sponge, you can put this effect rack on it, which has some dampening, a bit of transient, so you can make it more short than it is. A bit of shimmer, a bit of EQ, and some chorus. I've used it in my first indie folk song, you can see it right there. We're heading now into the vocal chain project, which has a super dry, a slapback, a warm room, a reverb, and with a bit of distortion. So the super dry is what I use the most. It's just some de-essing because I have some hard S's, some EQ to get a bit more lows out, a compression, more compression, and sometimes a bit of fuzz to give it a bit more distortion. I love the compressed sound in the vocals. So just a really basic sound. Then we have the slapback, so it has a bit more room. And a bit more tape saturation. Then we have the warm room vocal. A warm room vocal. Oh, oh. A warm room vocal. Oh. The name says it already. It's just a warm room vocal. What a verb. So when you double that. When you're singing in the church. A pretty cool sound. And then the final one is the slide distortion, which you can use with the broken tape guitar, maybe. I feel the time is finally coming, so I don't go and I don't want you to. I feel the time is finally coming, so I don't go and I don't want you to. Just a tiny bit of fuzz, which has a pretty cool texture. We have a lot of compression and a bit of slap delay, so it has a bit more room. I think some pretty cool vocal presets that you can use in all your indie folk songs. And then finally the indie folk drums. Drums that I've recorded myself at the drum kit. I've dampened all the drums to make it sound a bit more dry. I've ran them through this tape recorder to get a more dry and punch feel. I've made a couple of kits, which is a dry studio kit. That's the first one. We have a low tune kit. Which have some cool sounds. We have a reverb kit. Some pretty cool sounds. We have a mallet kit, which are the drum sounds, but I've recorded all the drums with a mallet, so it's a bit more soft. And then we have a tape room kit. which is the most tape saturation that I could get out of these drums. Some pretty cool sounds, and on top of that you also get the loops that I've created myself. I've played some drums myself, but I've also rearranged some samples to create some loops. So when you look at the folder, you can search the loops, which are processed myself, also processed through some tapes, so you get some more saturation. So this is the indie folk producer pack that you can buy. I've put a crazy amount of time into making this, created sounds, I've recorded sounds, I've put all of my best sounds together into this pack. I hope you can create something really cool with this. And if you make something cool with this, please send it to me because I love to hear what you made. This first week has a 20% off discount. And if you like more of these things, please let them know in the comments. Please subscribe if you want to see how I make music and how I create more songs. I'd love to see you the next time. Bye bye.